to find you, exalted, hidden one. Yet where would I not go to find you, ever-present, eternal one? Where might I go to find you, exalted, hidden one? Yet where would I not go to find you, ever-present, eternal one? Ya Allah,
Welcome to all of you who are with us in the sanctuary, and we welcome those of you who are joining us remotely for this holiest of Eves, Erev Yom Kippur, Kol Nidre. On this night and tomorrow, many of us will be wearing white. Our shoes will be adorned by either sneakers or, in my case, non-leather shoes. And on this, the holiest night of the Jewish year, everyone wears a talit, who normally wears a talit, not just the shaliach or shlichat tzibor, not just the one who leads us in prayer. So if you have not yet donned a talit, I hope you will join me. Please take yours out, rise, and we'll recite the bracha together. You will find it in your Machzor on page 202. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, lehitatef bat tzitzit. Please turn in your Machzorim and draw your attention to the left hand page in the margin. Let's read together page 203. 203. A meditation before Yom Kippur. We're in the margin of the page. I hereby forgive all who have hurt me, all who have done me wrong, whether deliberately or by accident, whether by word or by deed. May no one be punished on my account. As I forgive and pardon fully those who have done me wrong, may those whom I have harmed by word or by deed forgive and pardon me, whether I acted deliberately or by accident. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, my rock and redeemer. Please rise as the ark is open. Page 204.
Or zaru ala tzadik, u'liyishrei lev simcha. Or zaru ala tzadik, u'liyishrei lev simcha. Or zaru ala tzadik, u'liyishrei lev simcha. Or zaru ala tzadik, Ul Yishrei lev simcha, Or zaru ala tzadik, Ul Yishrei lev simcha. B'shiva shel mala, Uv'shiva shel mata, Al dat hamakom, V'al dat hakahal, Anu matirin litpalel im ha'avaryanim. B'shiva shel mala, ובשיבה של מטה, על דעת המקום ועל דעת הקהל, אנו מתירים להתפלל עם העבריינים. בשיבה של מעלה ובשיבה של מטה, על דעת המקום ועל דעת הקהל, אנו מתירים להתפלל עם העבריינים. Kol Nidre Service וחרמי וקונמי וכינויי וכינוסי ושבועות דין דרנה ודאשתבנה ודאחרימנה ודיאסרנה על נפשתנה. מיום כיפורים זה עד יום כיפורים הבא, עלינו לטובה. כולהון יחרטנה והון, כולהון יהון שרן, שוויקין, שוויתין, בטלין ומבוטלין, לשרירין ולא קיימין, נדרנה נדרי וסרנה לאסרי ושבועתנה לשבועות. Kol Nidre Service וחרמי וקונמי וכינויי וכינוסי ושבועות דין דרנה ודאשתבנה ודאחרים נא מדיע סרנה על נפשתנה מיום כיפורים זה עד יום כיפורים הבא עלינו לטובה. כולהון יכרתנה בהון כולהון יהון שרן שוויקין שוויתין מטלין ומבוטלין לשרירין ולא קיימין נדרנה לנדרי ואסרנה לאסרי ושבועתנה לשבועות. Kol Nidre Service וחרמי וקונמי וכינויי וכינוסי ושבועות דין דרנה ודאישתבנה ודאחרים נא מדיע סרנה על נפשתנה מיום כיפורים זה עד יום כיפורים הבא עלינו לטובה. כולהון יכרתנה והון כולהון יהון שרן שוויקין שוויתין מטלין ומבוטלין לשרירין ולא קיימין נדרנה לנדרי Me'esara nala la esare Ushevuatana la Shavuot. Menislach lechol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lager hagar b'tocham ki lechol ha'am bishgaga menislach lechol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lager hagar b'tocham ki lechol ha'am bishgaga v'nislach lechol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lager hagar b'tocham ki lechol ha'am bishgaga. Shlach na la'avon ha'am hazeh ki godel chasdecha v'cha asher nasata la'am hazeh mimitzrayim biad heina v'sham nemar Vayomer Adonai salachti ki dvarecha Vayomer Adonai salachti ki dvarecha Vayomer Adonai salachti ki dvarecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh.
Please be seated. It is my great honor and pleasure to ask our president, Elise Reiter-Wagner, to please come forward and to share a very special message with all of you.
I always imagine this moment a little bit differently. I wasn't wearing a mask, the bima was pushed back, and the seats were all filled. I thought I'd be looking out at friends, sitting in their regular spots, just as they have been for most of my lifetime. As we know, things are not as I once imagined them. But yes, this is something I've long imagined. I've watched my predecessors come up here to deliver an appeal during the high holidays, and somewhere, deep down, I think I knew I would one day hold the position of president of the board of Herzl-Ner Tamid. Those who have come before me have been great role models, but no one as much as my mom, Pauline Reiter, Zikrona Livraha, the first woman president of HNT. My mother instilled in me a great love of Judaism and the importance of being part of the Jewish community. My mom taught me to invest in the things I feel passionate about. I feel passionate about HNT. I'm a graduate of the Frankel Religious School. I'm a past leader of Seattle Achim USY. I regularly attend Shabbat services and morning minyan. Over the years, I've been involved in the membership committee, the ritual committee, Women's League, the FRS Parent Committee, and of course, the board of directors, just to name a few. I have invested my time in HNT. The reason I have had such great opportunities at HNT is because of the money that our congregants have generously donated. Our budget needs go beyond the dues and fees we collect. We have a building to maintain. We support life cycle events. We maintain technology to be able to communicate regularly with the congregation. We contribute significantly to FRS, and let's be real, we pay salaries to our incredible staff and clergy who have proven this past year and a half just how dedicated they are to our community. And we don't just do work within our community. Our Social Action Committee is actively involved in supporting the homeless and the underserved. We provide meals and school supplies and coats and household items and so much more. And that too takes money. I'd like to ask everyone this evening to invest in HNT. Not asking you to make your investment this evening, just asking this evening. With a new executive director and a new senior rabbi, and hopefully a move towards more normalcy, there is so much we can do this coming year, but it takes all of you. You should have received an email from me today with a video message. In that email, there are 2 links, one to the annual appeal and one to the social action appeal. Please click on both links to invest in HNT, in our future, and in our greater community. And as I mentioned earlier, money is not the only way to invest in HNT. So after you've made your donations, keep your eyes out for ways to participate and to volunteer to maintain our vibrant community and allow it to grow even stronger. Together, we will move forward better than ever. Thank you.
Yishar kochech, Elise. You know, I've worked with a lot of presidents over the course of 25 years, and not one of them can hold a candle to the president who just spoke. She has not only her mind, but most especially her heart invested in this congregation. And like me, she never, ever imagined that she would have to lead a congregation through a pandemic. And I will tell you as your senior rabbi that we wouldn't be where we are in large part because of our president. We have incredible lay leadership, incredible staff, an incredible partner in clergy. But you need somebody behind you when you're the rabbi of a congregation who has a vision and who has the dedication and the spirit, the neshama, to lead a congregation through its most challenging times. So I really hope that you will pay heed to her request, and after Yontif, you'll go to the website, you'll go to that link in the video, the 2 links, you'll click on them, and you'll follow through. Thank you very much. I have one more ask of you right now, and that is to rise for the Baruch Hu, page 207.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach לעולם ועד.
Please be seated.
ברוך אתה אדוני לעולם. ומעביר יום, ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני.
Baruch Hu V'rach Shemo.
המעריב ערבים.
Amen. Ahavat Olam, page 208.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה. מאהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני. אוהב עמו ישראל.
Amen.
שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. והיה אם שמועתי שמואל מצוותי אשר לך בצורך. יזכרו ועשיתם מקום מצוותי. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. מי אמור לכל זאת? ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם, משה ובני ישראל לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף אלה מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע ים לבני משה זה לי ענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Shemo.
גאל ישראל
Amen. Hashkivenu, page 211.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום ועמידנו מלכנו לחיים ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ותקננו בעצתו. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Vorach Shemo.
הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו מעל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים.
Amen. We rise for Kriyom Hazeh, page 212.
כי ביום הזה יכפר עליכם לטהר אתכם מכל חטאותיכם לפני אדוני תטהרו. יתגדל מתקדש שמי רבה
Amen.
בעלמא דברה כרותי וימליך מלכותי בחיי חון וביומי חון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן.
Amen.
יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי אלביה יתברך. יתברך משתבח מתפאר ויתרומם מתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא, ואמרו אמן.
We continue silently with the Amidah, beginning on page 213.
יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, והגיון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגואלי, עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, v'imru amen.
Please be seated. We continue with Ya'aleh on page 223.
Ya'aleh tachanunenu me'erev v'yavo shavatenu mi boker v'yera rinunenu ad ha'arev v'yera rinunenu ad ha'arev Ya'aleh kolenu me'erev v'yavo tzidkatenu mi boker v'yera'eh pidionenu v'yera'eh pidionenu v'yera'eh pidionenu ad arev. Ya'aleh inuyenu me'erev v'yavo slichatenu mi boker v'yera'eh na'akatenu v'yera'eh na'akatenu v'yera'eh na'akatenu ad arev.
We continue with the last two stanzas.
Ya'aleh dofkenu me'erev v'yavo gilenu mi boker v'yera'eh bakashatenu v'yera'eh bakashatenu v'yera'eh bakashatenu ad arev Ya'aleh katenu me'erev v'yavo elecha mi boker v'yera'eh eleinu v'yera'eh eleinu v'yera'eh eleinu ad arev.
Gamar Tov. The story is told of Reb Israel, the Maggid of Koznitz, who visited the town of Apt at the time of Rosh Hashanah each year. On one of those visits, the elders of the town asked the Rebbe to preach in shul for the holidays. And to their surprise, he said no. When they asked him why, he responded, "Last year when I visited you, you made the same request. I was only too happy to give a sermon. But I'm sorry to say that I accomplished absolutely nothing. Things here are exactly the same today as they were a year ago. It doesn't seem like anything has changed." Apparently, nobody heard a word of what I said. So why should I waste my breath? The people that were devastated, they weren't only devastated, they were insulted. Could it be that the rabbi's sermon had actually landed on deaf ears? As word of the rabbi's harsh rebuke spread swiftly through the town, the people of Apt fell into a deep depression. Finally, a blacksmith asked to meet with Reb Israel. "I am neither a scholar or a saint," the man said to the rabbi, "but I can tell you that you are mistaken about your sermon having no impact on anyone. I listened to what you said last year. You spoke of the obligation of every Jew to practice what is written in Psalms. I place you, O God, before me forever. I am ever mindful of your presence. From that moment on, I have sought to do just that. The name of God is constantly before me, revealed to me as black fire written on white fire. I see God in every person I meet and in everything I encounter. I live in awe of God constantly." The Rebbe smiled at the man and apologized. If one heart was open last year, perhaps two will open this year. And he agreed to give the sermon on Yom Kippur. I stand humbly before you, and I eagerly and unconditionally agree to share a sermon with you on this second year of Yom Kippur as your senior rabbi. Well, I've shared many words of Torah with you for about 13 months. I really don't know how many of those words you've actually heard. I also don't know how many you've taken to heart. I pray that I've given you a bit of insight, and still more, to others of you, comfort. It would please me if most everyone in this holy congregation has gotten a sense of the meaning and the beauty and the joy that I experience every single day, living and breathing in Judaism and Jewish life. If over the past year I've accomplished that much, I can find the strength, or at least the audacity, to offer you a few more words this evening. They say a rabbi has only one sermon. We just keep giving it over and over and over again. Throughout our careers in a plethora of ways. Hillel's sermon, for example, was short and sweet and infinitely complex. 2,000 years ago, he taught, "What is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. The rest is commentary. Now go and study." Now, over the past 12 or 13 months, I've given close to 70 sermons, including Shabbatot and Chagim like today. I've spoken about comfort and hope, the case that acting for social justice is mandated by Jewish tradition. I've urged everyone to forge personal relationships with the land and the people of the state of Israel. I've taught you criteria from the Talmud and the Musar tradition for a life well lived. And I've taught about developing a personal theology that works for you and is authentically Jewish. I offered a portrait of the beauty and the power of Shabbat and what it can bring to your personal lives and to our communal lives. We talked about judgment, repentance, tshuva, and forgiveness. Above all, I've shared my insights about relationships, about caring for aging parents, and serving as role models for our children. I've talked about community and community and community. I've talked about civil discourse, and civil discourse. So if you've been paying attention to my sermons or the Divrei Torah that I give on Shabbat, or any of the teachings I share in adult education offerings, I know that you've heard my sermon. It's very simple. I can express it in 3 short sentences. I believe that God exists, not out there somewhere, but in all things. The oneness of God is reflected in the oneness of the world. As a part of creation animated by the divine spark, we are called to instill in all our relationships, a sense of holiness. That's it. The rest is commentary. Go and study it. There are 3 essential parts to this message. The first 2 are theological and therefore foundational. God exists. God is one. Therefore, all being is one. If you don't accept these premises, it doesn't matter all that much. Don't get hung up on the theology. The third part is the action item. It's the one I want you to pay close attention to. Because we are creatures animated by the divine spark within us, we're called to sanctify all of our relationships and to make them holy. At a certain level, this calling we share is simply a matter of looking for and recognizing God in every person and in everything. Our task, our duty, is to see God's presence in the other, to make it manifest by bringing out the holiness that is potential. The Hasidic master called this raising the sparks. Martin Buber, the great 20th century Jewish philosopher, called it hallowing our relationships through holy living. I call it living life with meaning and purpose, and demonstrating our sense of responsibility for others by doing mitzvot, commandments, which are by definition most holy. That's my sermon. That's it. And I guess it's probably the only one I've got. Let me just share a few observations and implications that come from it. You can't be a Jew alone. We need each other in order to live lives of meaning and purpose. Holiness can only be created in relationships, not in isolation. There are other traditions that believe otherwise, but it's not the Jewish way. You can be a Jew without praying in Hebrew or without knowing much of anything, but you run the risk of feeling a bit lost. You can be a Jew without being born Jewish. You certainly can be a Jew without believing in God, as long as you act toward others as if you really did. But you can't be a Jew alone. You can't be a Jew living on a mountaintop. And you can't be a Jew sitting anonymously in suburban comfort. To be a Jew is to sanctify your relationships with others in order to bring God into the world. Wow, that sentence of mine just blew me away. That's why I'm constantly talking about community and peoplehood. Community and peoplehood, they are the way we organize our relationships. These values are the mediator of Judaism and Jewish life. Judaism teaches us how to live with others, beginning in our homes with those whom we feel closest. It extends to our families, to our friends, to our congregation, to the larger community and the world beyond. For Jews, there is no such thing as complete independence or complete autonomy. In truth, we are interdependent with others. We need each other in order to live out our religious lives. And God needs us to bring the divine presence into the world by discovering and creating holiness wherever we can. Martin Buber relates a story on this theme in the name of the Baal Shem Tov. Once there was a man who saw a rare and gorgeous bird. It was roosting in the top of a very, very tall tree. The bird was exceedingly beautiful. Its exotic plumage dazzled his eye in the bright sunlight. As he gazed upon the unusual bird, the man was filled with a deep desire to reach out and to take it. But alas, the tree was too tall. No ladder was high enough, and the tree was impossible to climb. So the man called to the others around him and suggested a plan. He persuaded the folks to make a kind of a human pyramid so that he would be able to climb to the top and reach the bird. The people were quite willing at first, for they had seen the bird and they were as desirous of it as he was. But before long, those on the bottom, tired of the wait, and with little incentive to play their part, they soon considered leaving their post to pursue other distractions. No sooner had the first person slipped away, the whole pyramid came tumbling down. The Baal Shem Tov explained, every individual has ultimate worth, but only when they fuse together as one. United in love, can they reach out and bring that heavenly goodness into the world. When one leaves to take care of their personal needs or desires, we cannot achieve holiness in the world. Today, I feel a special urgency about this. We are in the midst of a major shift in our society, and this phenomenon has spilled over into the Jewish community. And despite the pandemic, which has resulted in so many of us feeling isolated and apart from community, this shift, it is still in motion. Actually, in many ways, the pandemic accelerated it. A deep fissure and ugly conflict has developed between those demanding unbridled freedom and those who insist that personal freedom should be checked because the health and safety of the community are at risk. This shift away from the communal to the individual has serious implications for our congregation, our communities, and the way that we live our lives. We're moving quickly into an age of hyper-individualism in which our communities and all they bring is potentially at risk. We live in a world of unprecedented opportunities for personal choice. The entire economy seems to be driven by this. On airplanes today, as opposed to when I was a kid, back in the Stone Age, there was only one movie that the entire plane watched, usually on not more than 2 screens. Nowadays, every single seat, at least on long domestic flights and on international flights, they all have their own screen. And you can watch from a myriad of movies and play games and watch TV shows. You can listen to any music you like. So even on a 12-hour flight to Tel Aviv, you don't actually have to speak to the person who's sitting next to you. Car manufacturers now have dual LCD screens in minivans and SUVs. When I had young children, Michal can tell you, they didn't exist. And that led to a lot of argumentation, a lot of disagreement. But in the end, it led to compromise. Siblings today, they can watch their own movies, or they can just sit there in the back seat on their smartphone and never, ever have to look up, never have to have a conversation with their brother or sister, mom or dad, or whoever else is in the car. The best way to avoid interaction with other people in the gym or while walking the dog in the neighborhood is to wear AirPods. Our interactions with neighbors have been reduced to a polite wave and a smile if we're not wearing a mask. Yes, COVID has played a role, but for a while, everyone has been metaphorically making Shabbos for themselves. Now, this isn't entirely bad. The ability to make personal choices can be very empowering, but when it creates a real disconnect from those who would be our friends and partners in life, extreme individualism pits us in competition with each other, burdens groups trying to meet everyone's needs, and threatens to become destructive to the individual and corrosive to our society. This is our challenge, to respond to the culture of individualism and isolation by nurturing communities that provide centers of value and meaning for their members. Herzl-Ner Tamid is such a community. It may be muted today because of the pandemic, but this is what our congregation is all about. We can't function as a religious community unless our members join together and sacrifice a little bit of themselves, a bissel, for a higher communal purpose. In his classic work, I and Thou, Martin Buber wrote that a community must have a center. It has a shared vision, purpose, and commitment through which all members are connected to each other, like spokes connected to the hub of a wheel. In order to create such a community, people give up some of their individual needs and desires for the benefit of the group. In return, the collective provides its individual members with the support they need to live lives of meaning and purpose. Our congregation center, our purpose, is one of connection. We connect Jews to Judaism, Jews to each other, Jews to the world. Every age group is provided opportunities for these connections, from the youngest of children to the wisest of adults. Every family is granted the possibility of involvement, whether they be families with or without children, traditional or non-traditional. Our congregation is our home. This is what should bind us together. To this end, we hope that our members will give of themselves in support of the community in a wide variety of ways. First and foremost, just to emphasize what Elise said earlier, by giving to support what we do, keeping the lights on, streaming services to those who can't be here, providing you with the clergy, the educators, the staff that keep this place humming. Secondly, we hope that you'll show up. Someone said that 80% of success is when people show up. You might not know this, but others are delighted to see you when you show up for services. whether it's right now or, unfortunately, during the pandemic, on Zoom. Whether it's a bar or bat mitzvah, whether it's an ofruf, whether it's a shiva. For over 5 years, I served as chair of the Rabbinical Assembly's Commission for a Vital and Connected Rabbinate. As you may know, the Rabbinical Assembly is the International Association of Conservative Rabbis. The commission was comprised of 10 committees, all tasked in different ways with forging stronger bonds between members of the RA and the RA membership with the organization. It was a successful and important effort of what Dr. Ron Wolfson, one of the leading sociologists of the North American Jewish community, calls relational Judaism. It's what I also call community building. One of the committees did the innovative work of incubating, promoting, and supporting affinity groups. Cohorts of people, in this case, cohorts of rabbis who share common interests and concerns. There's a group of RA members who enjoy tabletop gaming. One for rabbis who are divorced. Another for those who are part of the LGBTQ community. The list goes on and on. Affinity groups have brought rabbis together, regardless of their age, gender or sexual orientation, or their path in the rabbinate. And in doing so, they have helped to transform the Rabbinical Assembly into a stronger and tighter-knit organization. They've helped the RA become a closer, stronger community of rabbis, and in doing so, strengthened the conservative movement. Because without strong rabbis, there isn't a strong conservative movement. Just like without strong cantors, there isn't a strong conservative movement. This powerful model of community and building it can also work for our congregation. When Rebecca Frankel, our program director, and I shared it with our membership community, they embraced it enthusiastically. So tonight, on the holiest night of the Jewish year, I'm announcing a new and exciting initiative. HNT affinity groups. A member-generated and synagogue-supported effort to bring HNT members together within an HNT context around a multitude of interests, from cycling to skiing, from crossword puzzles to mahjong, from Kraken hockey to Sounders soccer, from Daf Yomi to Jewish music. The list can go on and on and on. In the coming weeks, we'll be sharing more information about this exciting new congregational endeavor. I hope you also will embrace it. It will help us feel more connected to each other. It'll make us feel more connected to HNT. Albert Einstein, who's someone they say was pretty smart, once opined, "Strange is our sojourn upon earth. Each of us comes for a short visit, not knowing why, yet sometimes seeming to divine a purpose." From the standpoint of daily life, however, there is one thing we do know, that we are here for the sake of others. Above all, for those whose smile and well-being, our own happiness depends. And also for the countless unknown souls with whose fate we are connected by a bond of sympathy. Many times a day, I realize how much my own outer and inner life is built upon the labor of others, both living and dead, and how earnestly I must exert myself in order to give in return as much as I have received and am still receiving. What wise words. Our tradition teaches us that when two people sit together and exchange words of Torah, the Shekhinah, God's presence, hovers above them. When we share our stories and bind ourselves together in meaningful relationships, we provide a place for God's presence to dwell among us, making this Kehillah Kadoshah, this congregation, a truly sacred community. What is the purpose of community? We are here for religious and spiritual quest, our search for meaning and purpose. We gather together for study, for celebration, for prayer and reflection, because none of us can do any of these things alone. We come together in community to provide mutual support for one another. We form and nurture relationships in order to create and discover holiness in the world through the performance of mitzvot. These are all ways of recognizing the godliness in others, of sanctifying our relationships, and ultimately bringing God into the world. Gamar Chatima Tova. May you have a good seal. May your new year be filled with relationship, with community, with HNT. Gamar Tov. Baruch Tia. Going to invite Cantor Curlin to join us on the bima. As we continue with Kihine Kachomer, page 227.
כי הנה כך אומר ביד היוצר, ברצותו מרחיב וברצותו מקצר. כן אנחנו בידך חסד נוצר לברית הבית ועל תפן ליצר. כי הנה כאבן ביד המסתת, ברצותו חייס וברצותו מחתת. כן אנחנו בידך מחיה וממוטט לברית הבית ועל תפן ליצר.
As iron in the hand of the blacksmith who forges or withdraws it at will, so are we in your hand, support of the poor. Recall your covenant. Do not heed the accuser. As the helm in the hand of the sailor who holds the course or abandons it at will, so are we in your hand, good and forgiving God. Recall your covenant. Do not heed the accuser. As glass in the hand of the glazier who shapes or melts it at will, so are we in your hand, pardoner of sin and transgression. Recall your covenant. Do not heed the accuser.
כי הנה כירייה ביד הרוקם, ברצותו מיישר וברצותו מעקם. כן אנחנו בידך אלקנו ונוקם לברית הבית ועל תפן ליצר. כי הנה הכסף ביד הצורף, ברצותו משגשג, וברצותו מצרף. כן אנחנו, בידך ממציא למזור טרף, לברית הבית ועל תפן ליצר.
We rise as the ark is open for Shema Kolenu, page 233.
Shema Kolenu Adonai Eloheinu Chus verachem aleinu Bekabel berachamim uveratzon et tefilateinu.
Shema Kolenu Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu v'kabel b'rachamim, uvratzon et tefilateinu.
Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadesh yameinu kekedem.
Hashivenu Adonai lecha v'nashuva, Chadesh Yameinu kekedem.
Al tashlichenu milfanecha v'ruach kodshecha al tikach mimenu.
Al tashlichenu milfanecha v'ruach kodshecha al tikach mimenu.
Al tashlichenu le'ed zikena kichelot kochenu al tazvenu.
Al tashlichenu le'ed zikna, kichlot kochenu al ta'azvenu.
למען שמך הגדול תמחל ותסלח לעווננו, ככתוב בדברי קודשך, למען שמך אדוני, וסלחת לעווני כי רב הוא.
Please be seated. We continue with Ki Anu Amecha, page 234.
אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו. כי אנו עמך ואתה אלוהינו, אנו בניך ואתה אבינו, אנו עבדיך ואתה אדוננו, אנו כהולך ואתה חלקנו, אנו נחלתך ואתה גורלנו, אנו צונך ואתה רוענו, anu charmecha miata noterenu anu feulatecha miata yotzerenu anu rayatecha miata dodenu anu segulatecha viata kerovenu anu amecha viata malkeinu anu mamirecha viata mamirenu anu azefanim viata rachum vechanun anu kishay oref viata erech apayim anu melei avon viata melei rachamim anu yameinu kitzel over viata hu ushnotecha lo yitamu.
We rise for the Yashamnu, page 235.
Ay, 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 Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dolfi, Hevinu, Vihirshanu, Zadnu, Chasmasnu, Tafalnu Sheker, Yatsnura, Kizavnu, Latsnu, Maradnu, Niyatsu, ay, 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 Sararnu, Avinu, Pashanu, Sararnu, Kishinu Oref, Rashanu, Shichatnu, Tiavnu, Tainu, Titanu, Sarnu mimitzvotecha mimishpatecha tovim, Velo shava lanu, ve'ata tzadik al kol haba aleinu, ki emet asita v'anachnu hirshanu.
We remain standing for the Al-Chet, page 237.
Al-Chet shechatanu lefanecha ba'ones uvratzon, Al-Chet shechatanu lefanecha be'imutz halev. Al-Chet shechatanu
We
lefanecha.
read responsively. We have sinned against you thoughtlessly. We have sinned against you through sexual immorality. We have sinned against you knowingly and deceitfully. We have sinned against you by defrauding others. We have sinned against you through forbidden trysts. We have sinned against you by scorning parents and teachers. We have sinned against you by resorting to violence. We have sinned against you through foul speech. We have sinned against you through pursuing the impulse to evil. For all these sins, forgiving God, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement.
Bial kulam elo selichot Selach lanu mecha lanu kaper lanu mial kulam ela selichot Selach lanu mecha lanu Selach lanu mecha lanu kaper lanu על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בכחש וכזב, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך מחפת שוחד.
We have sinned against you by clever cynicism. We have sinned against you by the way we do business. We have sinned against you by greed and oppressive interest. We have sinned against you in everyday conversation. We have sinned against you through condescension. For all these sins, forgiving God, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement.
מעל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו מחלנו כפר לנו. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בפריקת עול, מעל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בפלילות.
We have sinned against you by plotting against others. We have sinned against you through superficiality. We have sinned against you by rushing to do evil. We have sinned against you through empty promises. We have sinned against you by betraying trust. For all these sins, forgiving God, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement.
מעל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו מחלנו כפר לנו.
Please be seated. We read together selection Daled, the last paragraph on the bottom of 241 in English. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then, perhaps, to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back, we pray, to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death is a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage. We rise for Avinu Malkeinu, page 244.
Avinu Malkeinu חטאנו לפניך אבינו מלכנו אלוהינו מלך אלוהות אבינו מלכנו עשה לו עמנו למען שמך אבינו מלכנו חדש עלינו שנה טובה אבינו מלכנו אבינו מלכנו החזירנו בתשובה שלמה לפניך אבינו מלכנו שלח רפואה שלמה לחולי עמך אבינו מלכנו, זוכרנו בזיכרון טוב לפניך. אבינו מלכנו, כותבנו בספר חיים טובים. אבינו מלכנו, כותבנו בספר גאולה וישועה. אבינו מלכנו, כותבנו בספר פרנסה וכלכלה. אבינו מלכנו, כותבנו בספר זכויות. אבינו מלכנו, כותבנו בספר סליחה ומחילה.
We continue on the top of 245.
אבינו מלכנו, חוננו בנינו. אבינו מלכנו, חוננו בנינו, כי אין בנו מעשים. עשה עמנו צדקה וחסד. עשה עמנו צדקה וחסד והושיענו. אבינו מלכנו, חוננו בנינו. אבינו מלכנו, חוננו בנינו, כי אין בנו מעשים.
We remain standing for Kaddish Shalem.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה. בעלמא דברה קירותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגאלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן.
Amen.
יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשא בריחו לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צלותיהן ובאותיהן דכל ישראל. קודם אבוהן דבשמיא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו מעל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
Aleinu, page 246.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. על כן נגב לך אדוני אלוהינו לראות מהר ובטח, לתקן עולם מלכות שדי וכל בני בשר יקראו שמך לעד. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. We continue with Psalm 27, the psalm for the days of awe, page 248.
לדוד אדוני אורי וישי ממי ירם, אדוני עוז חיי ממי יפחד. אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני אותה אבקש, שבתי בבית אדוני כל ימי חיי, לחזות בנועם אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו, כי יצפנני בסוכו ביום רעה. השירה והזמרה לאדוני. לולא האמנתי לראות בטוב אדוני בארץ חיים, קווה אל אדוני, חזק ויאמץ ליבך, וקווה אל אדוני.
Following yortsites will be observed on this Yom Kippur. Dorothy Katz, Annie Pearl, Lucy Steinman, Peter L. Thomas, Fanny Cohen, Libby Epstein, Mark Feldman, Ruth Levin, Ruth Lily Rosenfeld, Rachel Varon. And we observe the yortzeit of Private Philip Brodsky of the United States Army, who entered service from New York. He was killed in action on September 11th, 1918, and buried in the Herzl-Ner, France cemetery. We say Kaddish for Private Brodsky. We say Kaddish for all service personnel who were killed in action or who went missing in action and who have a yortzeit this week. Mourners Kaddish, page 247. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba. Yalma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon. Uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam u'lemei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shemei dekudisha. Le'ela le'ela. Mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei Shlomo Rabba min Shemaya, v'chaim aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Just a few brief announcements. Reminder, tomorrow morning services will begin at 9:30 a.m. in person and online at our YouTube channel. JFS High Holiday Food Drive, please remember to drop off in the bin outside of the upper foyer now through September 26th. There will be a food drive-by on Friday, September 24th between 1 and 2 p.m. We have a very lovely family-sized sukkah in the courtyard. We invite you to use it. In order to do so, we ask that you please go online or call the office to reserve your spot. Registration is now open for HNT's adult ed classes for this fall and also for the spring semester. Please see our adult education page on our congregation's website. There are fish bowls at all of the entrances. If you happen to bring your pledge card, please fold over your tab and place it in the fish bowl. If you did not bring a pledge card, please, after Yontif, go into the message, the video message that Elise sent you today, and click on the 2 links. If you have borrowed a machzor tonight, please take it with you and return it to the table from which you took it. If you brought your own machzor, please remember to bring it with you back home. And just a very gentle reminder, we are really striving to keep everybody safe and healthy, which is why we are only allowing vaccinated individuals in the building to attend our services. We all want to be with family, but we have to understand that we want everybody to be safe, especially those who are most vulnerable, who cannot be vaccinated. So please, if you're here tonight or you're at home, please remember you must have registered for services and you must be vaccinated. With that, we are going to conclude our service with Yigdal on page 250.
יגדל אלוהים חי וישתבח, נמצא ויינאת על מציאותו, אחד ואין יחיד כייחודו, נעלם וגם אין סוף לאחדותו. אין לו דמות הגוף ואינו גוף, לא נערוך אליו קדושתו, קדמון לכל דבר אשר נברא, ראשון והן ראשית לראשיתו. הינו אדון עולם וכל נוצר, יורה גדולתו ומלכותו, שפע נבואתו נתנו אל אנשי סגולתו ותפארתו. לא קם בישראל כמו שעוד, נביא ומביט את תמונתו, תורת אמת נתן לעמואל, על יד נביאו נאמן ביתו. לא יחליף האל ולא ימיר דתו, לעולמים לזולתו. צופה ויודע סתרנו, מביט לסוף דבר בקדמתו. גומל איש חסד כמפעלו, נותן לרשע רע כרישתו. ישלח מן משיחנו, שפטות מחקקת ישועתו, מתים יחייל ברוב חסדו, ברוך אתה שם תהילתו, מתים יחייל ברוב חסדו, ברוך אתה שם תהילתו.
Gamar Chatima Tova.
יישר כוח.
יישר כוח.
תודה רבה. Nice to see everyone.